Welcome to another landscape photography edit. Today I'm gonna take this raw file and turn it into a picture like this while explaining you what adjustments I do and why I do them. So this is a scene from the Portree beach on the Isle of Skye, and I really like this mood. It has this mood of darkness, mysteriousness almost. And I've made a quick edit earlier where I made this picture, which is the same scene, just slightly different framing. But I really am happy with this black and white look. But for this picture today, I want to go for a color look, just because I think black and white and color will both work here. So quickly before I get started with editing, let's talk about settings. I shot this on a tripod, ISO 100, 18mm, f11 and 0.6 second exposure time. Now usually I would shoot this scene at f8 because there's really not so much foreground in the picture, you know. I could shoot this at f8 and still would get everything sharp from front to back. But I really wanted to get a little bit of a slower shutter speed, so that's why I've chosen f8. That allowed me to go to 0.6 seconds, which at least gives me some smoothness in the water and some, silkiness in the clouds. And the reason why I did that instead of just using an ND filter is because I wanted to combine the smoothness but still wanted to have some texture of the waves in the water, because often if you make, for example, water look very smooth and very silky, it can look very soft, and this is really a picture where I kind of want to go with the rough weather look and kind of implement that in my editing. So I really love this exposure time. That way the little waves get smoothened out, but the big waves still have some texture in the picture, which is a nice look. So I'm gonna crop some of the sky here and the foregrounds. Let's see how much exactly of the sky I want to crop out. Once again, I really don't care about rule of thirds here. I think it works better if I don't care about it. And I really do like it. That way I really get these bright spots in the sky. So now let's get started with actual editing. Now I think I'm gonna do a little bit different edit right here as I would do usually. And here I'm just gonna bring up the shadows a little bit because I wanna kinda keep that dark mood of the whole picture. I'm still gonna bring down the highlight slider a lot, but the whites, where I would usually bring the whites to the right and just stop before they clip, I feel like this is almost a bit too bright of a picture, and I really want to capture this kind of dim mood and this dark mood that I'm going for. So I'm just gonna bring the whites a little bit up, but nothing wild here. Then the blacks, I'm really thinking that I'm gonna bring down the blacks. Yeah, I really like that look a lot actually. Especially in the foreground. Let's see here. So here's before and here's after bringing down the shadows. Adds a lot of contrast to the picture. And speaking of contrast, the actual contrast slider, really not quite sure what I want to do here. I think this might actually be a little bit too much if I bring the contrast slider to the right, so I'm just gonna leave that at 0. Exposure is not very well spread out on the histogram, but if I would bring up the exposure, it just would be too bright and once again ruin this dark mood that I'm really going for. Then a very important thing here is definitely color temperature, because right now it has somewhat of a blue touch to it. It's not really neutral, but at the same time I'm not quite sure if I want it very neutral or warm, because this blue touch really gives a sense of cold, a sense of darkness once again. I think I'm still gonna bring up the color temperature a little bit, something like this, nothing wild. To the tint is really fine right here. And another big thing here will be clarity slider, and I'm definitely gonna bring that one up because I want these textures and these rough waves to be textured even more. Something like this. I definitely don't want to go too much here, otherwise it looks just over edited, but a little bit of plus, something like 20, really give the picture a very, very cool look. And vibrance and saturation, usually I would bring that up in especially such a picture where there's not really that much interesting lighting and not really that strong of a color. But because I want to keep this, once again, very, very dim and kind of dark, I'm just gonna leave that at 0 and move on to the tonal curve. The highlight slider, even though I want to keep this image very dark, sorry for repeating that so many times, I'm still thinking I'm gonna bring up the highlight slider here, because as you can see, it just really introduces a little bit more dynamic in the sky, really on a very small level, and I really like that. Then to the other sliders, just gonna play around with these, really not anything set that I usually do here, and I don't even think I'm gonna change them very much. HSL tool, just gonna overjump that because there's not really any color I wanna change, but split toning can be interesting here. Let me just try and add some color into the highlights here. I'm not even sure which color I wanna go for, if I wanna go for any, maybe a little bit of the orange tone almost towards the reds here. Definitely not that much saturation, just a little bit. And I really do like this look because the highlight slider here, unlike the color temperature, will just add color more in the highlight parts of the image and less in the dark and shadow parts of the image, so that way we have a kind of warm tone towards the right but a very cool and blue tone towards the left, and I really think that works well for this picture. So while I'm at it, let's also play around with the shadows in the split toning tool, and I'm really not sure if I want to change anything here at all. I mean, shadows really aren't one of my most used tools. I really often just stick with the highlights, and yeah, don't really think any color works here. So detail tool, just gonna do my usual thing, zooming in 1:1, adding some sharpness, zooming back out again, bring the masking slider to the right. Noise reduction is not needed here, and color slider, as always, bring that a little bit to the right to get rid of the purple and green sensor noise. And lens corrections, just gonna do my basic thing, enable profile corrections, and color, remove chromatic aberration. And to effects, I really thought that I wanted to add some vignetting, but when I look at it and see what vignetting does to this picture, I really think I'm just gonna add a tiny bit here, because otherwise the whole picture is kind of almost a bit too contrasty, and I really think an even exposure in this picture works quite well. So I'm just gonna bring it down a little bit just to get these corners a little bit darker, but nothing more than that. And camera calibrations, profile, always want to play around with the profile regardless of what picture you're editing. This doesn't look bad, but it's a little bit too bright. Camera neutral looks very good. Let's see, the other ones. This doesn't look bad either. I think I might even like camera standard a bit better than Adobe standard. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna stick with that. Always worth to play around with that. And primary color sliders, I'm just not gonna touch these for this video because I kinda wanna keep it as short as possible. But if you're editing this picture for yourself, definitely be sure to play around with these if you have the time, especially if you're still learning. So with that said, I'm already done with the global adjustments, and the only thing that I want to do here is adding dodge and burning. I really don't think anything else is needed here. So let me just grab a graduated filter and add plus and negative exposure to the picture, and I'll speed up the footage once again to keep the video short, so see you in a second. So I've added quite a lot of dodge and burning, here's before and here's after. It just complexifies the light so much in this picture. Now I really think this color picture works really well, but I also think, let's see here in black and white, yeah, black and white definitely works well as well, but I think the color picture is just kind of a different approach to it, and because I've made a black and white picture already of the same scene with a bit of a different framing, I really think the color image is really different and also looks pretty cool. So as always, let's see where we start at with the raw file. Here's the raw file without any adjustments, and here's what I've made out of it. Actually, when I'm looking at the difference side to side, I think there might be a little bit too much green in the picture. Let me just bring up the tint a little bit, just a tiny bit towards the magenta. And yeah, that kinda cancels out some of the green tones in the picture. Thank you so much for watching. You know, I really kinda went for a different route for this picture than I usually do. But hopefully you still enjoyed it. If you did so, give me a thumbs up, and if you did not enjoy it, give me a thumbs down. That really helps me to see what kind of content you like. Keep taking great pictures, and I wish you a great day.